Good Saturday morning. It is Saturday, November 4th, 2023. I'm Wade Cresswell, Roane County Executive, coming to you for our weekly recap. Using a little bit different format this week because this recap is going to be quite a bit longer for a very good reason. And that reason is that today, November 4th, is the 80th anniversary of the X10 Graphite Reactor going critical. And I know that may not seem like a lot to you, but I'm going to explain why that is and tell the story of origin about Oak Ridge National Laboratory and how incredibly important that day was to who we are, where we are as a community, where we are as a country. It's an exciting story, so stay with me till the end of this video to learn so much more about such an important day in history, world history, actually, right here in Roane County. But to do our weekly recap first, I want to start off with, actually this week's news started off on Sunday night. Got a call about our first wildfire of the season. And it's incredibly dry out there. I encourage everybody, please don't do any open burning right now. But we got our first wildfire in the Mays Valley area. I could actually see it from the preserve, from looking out upstairs window at my house. I could see it across the ridge. Ended up being arson that was set, which was incredibly unfortunate. Thankfully, no properties were damaged and the fire was contained. We're especially thankful to Tennessee Forestry Division for their work. And there's been a couple of other wildfires since Sunday night happening in the county. So it's a dangerous time because things are so dry. We really need the rain. We got a little bit last week, but not much, not enough. So be praying for rain for sure. But that was Sunday night. And then Monday, incredibly busy day. Met with our building codes and planning officer, Glenn Kofer. Be on the lookout. I did a podcast a couple months ago, and the next one is with Glenn to sit down and talk about all the changes that we've put into our building codes and planning office over the last year. They're significant, and I want to be able to talk to you about them. But we've had to postpone that episode a couple times. We'll film that this coming week and get that posted for you to help you learn much more about how county government works, especially from that perspective. So I got a chance to meet with him. At lunch, had a meeting with Ken Reuter, who's the president of UCOR. The Oak Ridge Environmental Management of DOE is so important to the National Security Mission at Y12 and the Innovation in Science mission at ORNL. Neither of those missions could happen without the cleanup mission happening. So great to stay on the same page with UCOR and Ken Reuter. Really appreciate their partnership. I meet with our county attorney every Monday, so we had a good meeting. I had a meeting with Tony Brashears, who's our director of solid waste and recycling, as we're working through some policy changes to make sense both from a public customer service perspective to make sure we're doing all we can to serve the public, but there are really good reasons why we have some policies in place, logistically speaking, and from a business perspective, just to make sure we remain viable and maintain good stewardship of county taxpayer dollars. So we're working through a lot of things there. So be on the lookout for some announcements there. There was a fire board meeting Monday night. And then I had the opportunity, as I do every year, to get a chance to speak to youth leadership Roane County as I teach public speaking every year. It's so much fun to work with our future leaders. Kathy Parks is the champion for that program. It wouldn't happen without her passion for it. But it's such a phenomenal job working with our kids, our future leaders, and get a chance for me to put them a little bit out of their comfort zone when it comes to public communication. So thank you all for allowing me to do that. On Tuesday, I did a proclamation working with the homeless programs advocate out of Cumberland County as we work with our partners in the Upper Cumberland to raise awareness and hopefully build collaboration for programs that help homelessness and hunger throughout our region. It may seem like there's not a lot happening on the county front to address these issues, but I assure you there's plenty going on in the background. Several efforts that are tied together. It's just that nothing in government works fast. No matter how hard you push, there's a lot of moving parts that have to line up before things can actually happen. And we're held to such high standards from state government and the comptroller about how we plan our spending and then stick to how we plan that spending through the budget. So don't get discouraged, but we are paying a lot of attention to these issues and making sure that we eventually we'll get to where we make a big dent and make a difference for our people who are suffering from hunger and homelessness. Also on Tuesday, had our mayor's meeting. Mayor Jolly hosted us in Rockwood. So Mayor Neal out of Kingston, Mayor Best, and here Mayor Jolly and I met. Mayor Stiltner was supposed to be there but couldn't make it, had a last minute issue come up. But a great meeting is so important for us to be able to get together and talk about common issues, things we can do to work together. We're always working on that. I know we had a lot of discussion about how we can work on the opioid epidemic together. There's an opioid council that's been meeting on the county side of things for several months now. We're about to make a recommendation to county commission in the next couple of months. But what can the mayors do together to stand side by side to work in a way that will make a difference in this problem? That's what a lot of that discussion was about. So I'm very thankful to each one of them and the ability to work together. That was Tuesday. And then I met several staff meetings. So I've talked for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and we're only through Tuesday. Wednesday, we hosted, Roane County hosted East Tennessee Regional Leadership. Got a chance to speak to that group at the Princess Theater. Their theme was Science and Technology Day, and it's been a big portion at Oak Ridge National Lab, which is exactly where they need to be for Science and Technology Day, to learn about what makes Roane County, what makes East Tennessee different than any other place on the planet because of Oak Ridge National Lab. And then Thursday, congratulations to Rockwood Water, Sewer, and Gas on the ribbon cutting for your brand new facilities. Beautiful facility in downtown Rockwood. Congratulations on being able to finally complete that project. It means a lot to the city and to your customers as well. So congratulations. There was an Asian carp meeting. Basically just an update. We've basically completed our plan for advocacy, and now it's just a matter of continued bringing attention to the issue with our congressional delegation and our state leaders. We've been to the governor's office. We've asked for money to be put in the budget to build barriers on dams that are downstream to keep carp from coming upstream and making it to Wattsbar Lake. So we continue to work in that direction, but we've achieved our goals in that area. So that's exciting to know. And then there was a environmental review board meeting on Thursday. Yesterday, Mayor Alan Foster in Cumberland County invited me and Mayor Brian Langley in Morgan County to tour the brand new Flat Rock racetrack facility in Westall. And it is incredible. It will change our regional economy from a tourism perspective, hospitality perspective. So excited. Can't thank Mayor Foster enough for inviting us to do that. Rusty Biddle, who's the developer, gave us an incredible tour. And we're going to be working. I mean, we'll need, we talked about developing a 20-year plan to develop the infrastructure for what it's going to need, what it's going to take to build out all the resources to help that really be the economic driver that it can be. So that's super exciting, fun to be a part of that tour. Last night, there was a playoff sweep for our football teams. As Kingston, Oliver Springs, and Rockwood all had important wins and advanced to the second round of the TSSAA football playoffs. Also yesterday, Midway had two runners compete in the state cross-country championship, our championship race, and so did Kingston, had one compete. So congratulations to both schools and your representation there, and we're so proud of you for how you're representing Roane County and your accomplishments this year. And then finally, I want to talk about what makes today so special. So November 4th, today is the 80th anniversary of the day the X10 Graphite Reactor went critical. Now, that may not seem like much to you, but I'm telling you, it was a day that changed the world. And it certainly changed Roane County, Oak Ridge, and East Tennessee. So let me tell you the story behind it, because I had the opportunity to work at Oak Ridge National Lab for 3 years. In fact, they gave me this shirt on my first day when I first started working there. So I'm wearing my Oak Ridge National Lab attire. It was the honor of a lifetime to get a chance to work there. And one of my jobs was to give tours of the Graphite Reactor. So let me tell you a little bit about the story that I shared when I was giving tours there. So to understand how important this is, you've got to go back to 1930s Germany. And Berlin, Germany at the time, leading up to there, was really the science capital of the world, the science research capital of the world. You had so many giants in 20th century physics and science that lived in Berlin. But as you all know, what was happening in mid-30s Germany was the rise of Nazism and Adolf Hitler. And because so many of those scientists were of a Jewish heritage, they had to flee Berlin. Many of them fled to the United States, but they fled throughout, really all over the world, but through other parts of Europe as well. Well, one of those scientists was named Lise Meitner. She was a theoretical physicist. And she had a good friend from before she had to flee, his name was Otto Hahn, who was a German chemist. And Hahn had done an experiment where he ended up having, as a result of the experiment, two different byproducts that were really barium of equal atomic weight. And he couldn't figure out how the experiment happened. And it involved uranium. The experiment involved uranium. So he contacted his friend Meitner, who had fled to Belgium at the time. And the story goes that she took a walk through the woods in the snow, and she sat down and just visualized a water molecule in substitution for a uranium atom in her mind, and envisioned what would happen to it if that water molecule split into two. And what she visualized and realized is that you could split a heavy atomic weight atom like uranium. And when you do so, it released an enormous amount of energy. And she reported this back to her friend Hahn. And they quickly realized that when you can do that, if you can do this successfully and release the insane amounts of energy that would release, that could be used for either good or it could be used for evil. And in light of Nazism rising throughout Europe at the time, it quickly became realized among the scientific community that if Adolf Hitler got his hands on this capability of what was the discovery of nuclear fission, that he could develop a weapon that would be devastating to all of his enemies, and he truly could conquer the world. So it became an existential crisis. So flash forward a few years to when Albert Einstein actually had fled to the United States. And Edward Teller and Eugene Wigner, Wigner had worked at Oak Ridge National Lab as the research director subsequent to this, but they went to Einstein and said, we need you, because of your notoriety, because of your fame, to write a letter to President Roosevelt explaining this existential crisis, explaining that nuclear fission had been discovered, and if Hitler got his hands on it, that we would all obviously be in great threat. Roosevelt took that to heart, and eventually, you have to go forward a few more years later, but in September of 1942, Roosevelt initiated the Manhattan Project, and he hired General Leslie Groves to lead that up. They actually made Groves a general to lead this project. And the very first thing Groves did in September of 1942 was to purchase the properties, or really take over the properties, throughout the United States that would be needed for the research and the production to build a weapon, the very first atomic bomb before Hitler could do so as well. So, in one of the places where he did so was he bought 55,000 acres in what became Oak Ridge, Tennessee. It was between Clinton and Kingston. There was nothing there but farmland at the time. But the federal government acquired 55,000 acres to do really 4 different things. And this is the very first time that Oak Ridge became the first in the world to do something. So you had the Y12 facility that did electrochemical separation between uranium-238 and 235. 235 is the fissile material, which could be used for a bomb. You had K-25, which was using gaseous diffusion to do the same thing, separate U-238 from 235. And what's little known is there was also an S-50, which was at the powerhouse site near K-25, and it never really got off the ground. And then you had the X10 graphite reactor, which was the world's first continuously operating nuclear reactor that produced the world's first plutonium at bench scale to prove it could be done at industrial scale. So the world's first nuclear reaction actually occurred in Chicago in the fall of 1942. But then in February of 1943, ground was broken on the X10 graphite reactor. And the most amazing story of the Manhattan Project was the scale of what they accomplished in the time that they did it. So think about this. It takes about 10 years from concept to full build out for a nuclear reactor to be put into place in today's age. In fact, we're doing one. The UTVA is in the process of doing that at the Clinch River site, a small modular nuclear reactor. Well, they broke ground in February of 1943. And on November 4th, 1943, just 9 months later, from breaking ground, they went critical on the world's first continuously operating nuclear reactor. And in doing so, proved that you could produce plutonium from uranium by using neutron bombardment in a nuclear reactor. So that proved that Hanford, Washington, could produce plutonium at an industrial scale. And that's what the plutonium was used in the Little Boy bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki. The U-235 produced at Y-12 was what was used in the Fat Man bomb. Both of these bombs were assembled in Los Alamos. And that was the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, which those two bombs ended World War II, thankfully, and changed our world forever. So what that has led to since then, though, is because of the X10 graphite reactor, you have the world's first production of radioisotopes. Carbon-14 was produced, and that was used to treat cancer. It's the first time that had ever been done. The world's first production of electricity from a nuclear reactor was done at the X10 graphite reactor. The science of health physics and studying radiation on living things was invented because of the graphite reactor. It enabled the discovery of an element, promethium, at the graphite reactor, and the world's first neutron scattering was done at the graphite reactor. And now, because of that, we have the spallation neutron source, and you have HIFER, the high flux isotope reactor, both at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, which would do neutron scattering, and it is the world's leading method of materials science and looking at materials at an atomic level for how we can build better, stronger, more efficient materials. It's an amazing thing. So because of that, because of November 4th, 1943, now Oak Ridge National Laboratory has science. It's the world's largest and most comprehensive science laboratory. There are 17 national laboratories in the United States. 11 of them are science laboratories. 6 of them are defense laboratories. Of the science laboratories, Oak Ridge is by far the largest and most comprehensive. It employs 6,500 people and has a $2.8 billion a year budget. Of those 6,500 people, the average salary 2 years ago was about $116,000 a year. The economic impact that Oak Ridge National Laboratory has on our region and our county is far beyond any economic development project we could ever dream to attract here. It is so important and critical, not just to our local economy, but to our way of life. There's so many things that are part of our lives now that were developed there, and there's a lot of things that they're working on now that are going to be a huge part of our future. I wanted to take time to tell that story about how the X10 graphite reactor came to be, why it's so important, and why we're celebrating 80 years today since that went critical, and what it has meant to Roane County and East Tennessee and Oak Ridge, of course, since in those 80 years. So thank you if you've taken time to stick around for this history lesson. I love talking about this. As you can tell, I'm passionate about it because of how important it is to us, to our past, to our present, and our future. I hope everybody has a great week. It's a beautiful fall weekend. Go get outside and enjoy it. Go Vols today. Next week, we're looking forward to Veterans Day. We'll have a green light on our our front porch here at the courthouse commemorating Veterans Day. So be thinking about our veterans this week and how we can celebrate them in the week coming forward. Thank you all. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.